Hello, and thank you for watching The Righteous Kitchen, a cooking and baking blog found at www.therighteouskitchen.blogspot.com. Today's recipe, I am going to try to recreate my mother-in-law's holiday dressing. I am going to name this Jarrene's holiday dressing. It's really a moist, flavorful dressing, but it has a slightly different consistency to it. It stays nice and moist, and she didn't give me the recipe, but I had asked her about it one time. I said, boy, that was really good cornbread dressing that you made. And she says, well, it wasn't cornbread, it was cream of wheat. And I thought, wow, that was different. I wasn't expecting it, but I have done a little bit of research on the internet and found that you could make a replacement cornbread substituting cream of wheat. And that's what I've done here. I also made a video. It really does taste like cornbread. I think you'd be really happy if you made it. So I know that she had a hard time eating corn. Corn products didn't agree with her, so it was something that she needed to remove from her diet. So this was a perfect replacement, and I'm pretty sure that whenever she served us cornbread, it was actually cream of wheat bread, and we didn't know the difference. So we always commended her and complimented her on her cornbread. It's a nice southern cornbread that wasn't sweet or anything. It was a great cornbread. So this is a substitute that might be better than the actual cornbread. So to begin this recipe, you are going to need to go to my video and look for that cream of wheat bread. That's the cornbread alternative. You need a batch of that ready. I just made this overnight, and then I did go ahead and make some homemade chicken stock. Again, there's a video on that. This recipe is going to use 7 cups of turkey stock. So look for my recipe on the homemade turkey stock and have that ready to go before you start this recipe. So this recipe is going to use, for the bread components, it's going to use 1 recipe of that cream of wheat cornbread, and it's going to use 7 slices of just typical sandwich bread and 1 sleeve of saltine crackers. Now the remaining portion of this recipe is mostly from Paula Deen's cornbread dressing. So I think that's what my mother-in-law used, but I'm going to find out really shortly. So what I want to do is go ahead and get this bread in the oven, and I have the oven at 425, and I want the bread to, it doesn't necessarily have to toast, but I want it nice and dried out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven, and then I'll come back to work on this cream of wheat bread. Now I am using a big roasting pan to put all the ingredients in. I kind of like to work that way. It gives me a lot of room to mix up all of the ingredients. So what I'm going to do is just get in here and just kind of chop up this cornbread. And it's nothing perfect. I just want it in smaller pieces, just to help me get it out of the pan, and then I'm going to come in there and crumble it up. But look how this bakes up. It looks just like cornbread. Okay, I've got all that out, and this is a nice 9x13 pan, so I will end up washing this and then coating it with Crisco. All right, the cornbread is in here. Now I'm going to crush up a sleeve of saltine crackers. And then that's going to go right in here with the cornbread. I have my bread. It's really dried out now. It's toast, which is fine. I'm going to let that cool down just a little bit. And then I'm going to come over here and just crumble up this cornbread. What I can do is just come over here. I'll pour it all, put it all in the pan for right now. What I'm going to do with the toast is just cut it with my cooking shears. So I've got all, and you could also tear this bread. It doesn't matter. But kind of get in here and get all this mix crumbled together. So these little pieces of bread, you can just, since they're toasted up, they crumble really good. So actually, I think a little toast on them is going to be more beneficial to you, just to help break them down. This is our dry mixture. So I just want to set this off to the side, and then when I come back, I'm going to prep the vegetables for this. Before I start on the vegetables, now would be a good time to go ahead and grease the pan. This bakes in a 9 by 13 inch pan, and I'm just going to go ahead and coat it very well with Crisco. And then this, I'll just set this over to the side with the bread crumbs. And then also on the stove, I've went ahead and warmed up the turkey stock. So all that's off to the side. And when I come back, I'm gonna have the vegetables ready to go ahead and saute. This recipe is gonna use 1 large onion minced, and it's gonna need 2 cups of celery minced, and I am going to use the food processor to do this because I have people in my family that don't really like celery or onion. So for that reason, I just try to get it a really fine dice, or a mince rather. So the food processor is going to help me with that. And these little leaves at the end, I kind of like those in there. It gives it pretty coloring throughout. So we're looking for a really fine mince. Here's a little tip. When you're using your food processor and you want to get in here and scrape the sides, don't use your rubber spatula. They have a hard plastic spatula that's made just for the food processor. What it's going to do is save your rubber spatula from getting nicks and cuts in it. So use the one that they provided. Now, a lot of times I don't do that because the spatula is small and it kind of sinks to the bottom of my utensil drawer. But try to remember it. It's really handy, and it just saves your good spatulas. All right, so I'm going to mince this a little bit more. And that's what I want, a really nice mince. It's a better mince than what you would get with cutting it with your knife. All right, so I'm going to need 2 cups of this. Okay, this recipe also calls for 1 large onion. And again, I'm going to mince it very well in the food processor. Okay. Just cut the ends off, take the paper skin off. All right, we'll just give this a quick chop. And again, we have a very fine mince on this. So that's 1 large onion. And I'm just going to put it here with this prepared celery. Since I have this food processor out, I am making another batch of this, so it's really convenient. I can get all of my onion preparation done, and then I'm making a broccoli frittata, so that's using more onions. So I'm going to go ahead, while this is out, this is going to save me on my other dishes to go ahead and get this onion chopped. What I'm going to do now is, and this is optional, this here is some turkey meat that I used in the stock for my turkey stock, and you can add this. My mother-in-law a lot of times didn't add any meat to her dressing, but since I have this here, you know, I figured why not. Now you're going to want to press through this meat really good, and you're checking for those little neck bones. You don't want to get any of those in your dressing. And you don't want to add too much to your recipe. Maybe a cup for the whole recipe. I might not even use it, but I have the food processor out, so I could prep it and it'll be ready if I do decide to use it. And when you mince all this stuff in here, they don't even know what's in here. So you could put sausage in here, livers, gizzards, this turkey meat, and they're really not going to know what's in there. They're just going to know it tastes savory and delicious. Alright, so you can see how this is all chopped up now. It's like tuna. It's like the canned tuna consistency once it's been drained. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and put this back in the refrigerator, and it will be there if I decide to use it. This is also good in the turkey gravy. So you could put that in the gravy. It's nice and minced up. You wouldn't want to make it, you know, like a stew, but you could put a little bit, maybe 1/4 cup, half a cup in your gravy. Give it some texture. So I'm going to go ahead and refrigerate that. Then I'm going to clean up this work area, and I'll be back with the electric skillet so that we can start sauteing the vegetables. Okay, it is time to saute the vegetables. So I have 1 stick of butter, and I'm just melting that over medium-high heat. And I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 cups of finely minced celery and my 1 minced onion. And I want these vegetables to get soft. They don't need to brown, they just need to get translucent is what we're looking for. So it's not going to take too long because we've already got these minced. So it should go quicker. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the lid on here. And that's going to speed up the process. I'm going to cut this back just a little bit. I'm going to put the lid on here and check like in 2 minutes. And I am going to go ahead and add some of those turkey necks. So let me grab those real quick. Alright, so here's a 1/2 cup of the turkey necks that have been processed in the food processor. Now I don't want to get too crazy with adding a bunch of meats. That's not my mother-in-law's recipe. When you just, you know, start adding everything that you want. But I do know sometimes she would throw it in there. Not always, but it's an option. So just restrain yourself. Sometimes when you're cooking a recipe, you just want to get in there and add everything. And you kind of lose the integrity of the recipe when you do that. Sometimes you just have to hold back a little bit. But I'm just going to put a 1/2 cup in here. I think that would be fine. And I do know she did that on occasion, so we're good. Alright, I'm going to check these again. I'm going to use a fork this time to kind of, I want to get in here and mash up the celery and the onion and kind of see if it's soft yet. And it is, it's mashing, so that's good. Alright, so this is done. I'm going to go ahead and put it in this bowl and hold it over because I am making 2 batches of this. So while the pan's out, I'm going to go ahead and saute the vegetables for my second batch. What I've started doing is when I'm making all these holiday side dishes is I'll make Thanksgiving side and Christmas side at the same time and just freeze one. You know, today I'm going to bake one for you so that you can see what the dressing looks like. But this is also great for do-ahead. You could get all the ingredients mixed together and then freeze it and defrost it before Thanksgiving. And then all you have to do is just put it in the oven and bake it. So that's a nice time saver. If you get a lot of those recipes for the holidays that are freezable, then just get all of your work done ahead of the holidays and think ahead. Are you going to have to do the same thing for Christmas? If so, just start making double batches of everything and just pop it in the freezer. So that's exactly what I'm doing today. I've got my first batch going, and then while everything's out, why beat yourself up and do all this again next month if you have everything out right now? So just save yourself a lot of time and effort and just do it all. All your holiday cooking that you can do, get it done, prep it, and put it in the freezer. And it's going to free up a lot of time to actually enjoy the holidays. So this is my strategy, and I've been doing it for years. You know, since I got a freezer back in the day, I've been doing this. And it just gives you time to have more fun activities. You know, maybe you want to bake cookies or make treat bags for your neighbors. This will give you the time to do all those other holiday festivities instead of just being in the kitchen cooking the meal and then having to repeat the next month with the same thing. So go easy on yourself. Look for shortcuts. Alright, so I'm not going to have you watch the second batch, but that was just a little tip for you. And I will be back when it's time to assemble the dressing. I am ready to start putting the dressing together. And what I want to do is go ahead and measure the stock. So I'm going to need 7 cups of that, and that's going to put me almost to the top of this container here. So that's convenient. I like to do this ahead of time so that I am not missing count on what's going in there. So I'm just going to carefully pour this all back in here. There we go. So that's that homemade stock that I made. So we have the stock. We have the bread mixture. I've got 5 eggs. And I have the sauteed vegetables. And then I also have the seasonings. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to mix up these eggs. And then set them over to the side. And I am going to get some gloves real quick. And I need to bring my greased pan over. And the oven is at 350 degrees. And I have my spices. I'm going to go ahead and measure those out as well. And that is calling for... Now let me show you when you do your spices so that you get an accurate measurement. So the salt, everything is in the jar. So I could, you know, get my excess will be right in the jar. So that's 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of sage. Now, that's not a lot of sage, but we'll see. We can adjust these after, but right now I want to get in here what they call for. And then 1 tablespoon of poultry seasoning. Now what I want to do is take this dry mix of spices and just incorporate it right through my breadcrumbs. Next, I'm going to stir in the vegetables. And this time we added a 1/2 cup of neck meat. You could also use gizzards or livers or pork sausage ground up. or you could opt not to have a meat in there. That's up to you. So we want to get this evenly distributed. And I just get in here and kind of break up that cornmeal. My mother's recipe didn't have a chunky cornmeal consistency or chunky cornbread. There's the eggs. Now some people would just, add just a little bit of broth till it's like a wet sponge consistency. And that's how I traditionally make mine. But what's different with this recipe is the amount of broth going in. It's going to be a really loose mixture. Alright, so what we're going to do is just dump it all in. That's 7 cups of homemade turkey stock going right in. And like I said, it's going to be really loose. And I would just let this sit here. It's kind of like a bread pudding. I just let this sit a few minutes. Let those crackers dissolve. And you could just keep stirring it around. It's not going to make a difference. But I think this also is what really makes it nice and moist. It'll hold its texture when you cut it, but it still is nice and moist. And that's because 7 cups of broth just went in here. So look at that, very wet, very loose. All right, so let me kind of wipe my hands down a little bit. This 9x13 pan has been greased with Crisco, and I think what we're going to do is just pour this right in the pan. Well, let me kind of look and see. Just kind of press it in there evenly. And I don't think we're going to get it all in this. She must have used a larger pan than a 9x13. But I want to allow for this to expand. I'll put a little bit more in. But it's really loose right now. Okay, one last thing that my mother-in-law did with hers is she would dot the top of this with just little thin slices of butter, and that's going to give you a nice crisp top. It's going to give you that nice crisp on the dressing. Okay. I am going to cook this on a tray in case it poofs up too much. But there it is. There is the dressing, and it's all ready to bake. This is going to bake. We want it nice and firm and golden brown on top. I'll come back once it's done baking. This is a great make-ahead side dish. What I like to do is I'll prepare Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then I'll freeze them in these Food Saver freezer bags. So all I have to do before the holiday is just take this out the day before, let it defrost in the refrigerator, and then I put the instructions right on my bag. So this here says it's dressing. This is enough for an 8 by 8 inch greased pan. You're gonna defrost it. You'll put your ingredients in your pan. You'll dot it with butter, and then you'll bake it 350 for an hour and 30 minutes, up to an hour and 30 minutes. It might be less because it's an 8 by 8 pan, but it's gonna be golden brown when it's done. So this is a nice time saver. If you get 3 or 4 side dishes prepped like this, your Thanksgiving's gonna be a lot easier. So what I generally prep before is I prep my turkey stock, my dressing, a broccoli frittata, mashed potatoes, and dinner rolls. So that's the main components to the meal. I get all that prepped, and then I just bring out these bags and let them defrost a day or even 2 days before Thanksgiving or Christmas. I let them defrost in the refrigerator, and that takes a lot of the stress off of me preparing a large meal. So this is a great make ahead side dish. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this video out. I had to reshoot this clip, and I'm sorry you didn't get to see me bring it out of the oven, but somehow the video got messed up. This baked at 350 for 1 hour and 15 minutes. You could even bake it to 1 hour and 30 minutes. So it's got that nice crisp topping from the butter. So it's got that little edge of crisp on it, and it's very soft. It's like a spoon bread. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and plate this up so that you can see it. It's still nice and hot and delicious. I probably could do a better job of plating this, but it's not gonna look gorgeous. It's dressing, and it's what it is. That's what it looks like. So you can see how it's nice and moist and fluffy. Super moist. But I did go ahead and make up just a thin gravy to go over that, just so that we could taste it. And I'm gonna give it a quick taste. Actually, I have some here for my other plate. It's really moist. That's what I like about this, and I think that's what my son was really missing, a really nice, super moist. It's like a cornbread bread pudding type of a texture. So I think it's really good. I'm gonna have my husband taste it really quick so you can kind of see what his reaction is.
Good.
You can have that. Does it taste like your mom's?
Mm-hmm.
It does? Did that taste like your mom's dressing?
Yeah, it's nice and moist, yeah.
So there we go. I guess this is about as close as we're going to get to Jarrene's holiday dressing. And, you know, I'm going to let my son taste it and get his thoughts on it. But for right now, that's it. That's what I recreated, was her dressing, knowing that she didn't eat cornbread, and knowing that she was a fan of Paula Deen, and then kind of looking at Paula Deen's recipe, and the looks of it looked a lot like hers. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Please comment in the comment box if you tried it and if you liked it. And just share, you know, what your experience was with it. But I thank you, and happy holidays to you. And we'll be seeing you on those videos next year. Thank you for watching. Is that good? Are you sure?